So our panel today, we have Nellie.
Hello.
Hello. We have Laura.
Hello.
Sam.
Hey.
And Aurelia.
Aurelia.
It's the only tongue twister I've got. So, what we're going to do, we'll have to talk with the panel for the first part of the session, and then towards the end we've got 15 minutes or so where if you've got questions from the audience, then we can go through those. Okay? So, what we're talking about today is we're talking about our identities and how that works with us as autistic individuals as well. So the challenges and barriers. Yeah? What unique challenges have you faced due to your overlapping identities? $100 question. So would anyone like to kick off?
I can start yapping. Context, hi, my name is Sam. I think I'm credited as Salmonella. That is my drag persona. I am transmasc, heavily late diagnosed, many things. And I think it's been one of those things where for me, my gender identity and my sexuality also somehow weirdly links to autism, because every person I meet now is like, I too am autistic. There's definitely been times where, say in employment, where I'm getting overstimulated, not having a great time, where I feel like that definitely impacts how I am. But it's been one of those things that as I go on, as I get older, I learn things that I can do, like stimming, that helps encapsulate that. And within living in like a drag sphere, I meet people who are like me, so people understand. And usually they are much more accommodating. Like, I'll be on a lineup for a show, they'll be like, have you got any access requirements? And I'll be like, give me a little safe space just in case I feel like having a little, like, meant to be or something. And it's just much more accommodating, whereas I've had jobs in, like, mainstream, like retail, where you have managers that don't quite understand, and it feels like you're talking to a brick wall, and you're like, you know what I need? I just need you to, like, say yes. Just say yes. Yeah, I don't know if that helps answer the question. Yeah.
I think, like, for me as an autistic woman, I think, like, the thing that mostly gets talked about with autistic women is, like, how late we get diagnosed compared to boys. Like, I am born first, but my brother was diagnosed first. He did not talk for the first 3 years of his life, and my mum has often said, like, it was scarier for her thinking about him than for me, because I was older, she knew who I was already, she had no idea with him. But, like, yeah, I think for me, though, because I was actually diagnosed I was still diagnosed pretty early, I was diagnosed age 6. For me, the main issues around, like, these identities is, like, how do you define yourself when most of media is always focused on the default man?
Yeah.
Default man is white, default man is cisgender, default man is neurotypical, default man is able-bodied, default man can only be one, like, separate himself from one of those identities at a time. Like, the MCU is a great example. We got a black guy, and then we got a white woman, and now we have a black woman.
Crazy.
And that makes it so much harder to find, like, good autistic representation if you have an overlapping identity with femininity, with queerness, with anything else.
Definitely, I'm linking in with that this morning on LinkedIn. I saw, people might be familiar with the app Brain in Hand, which is really good, and I follow them on LinkedIn, and they had they typed into various AI programs, not just ChatGPT, to produce a picture of an autistic person, and it was white male, white male, white male, white male. Some of them had glasses, some of them one of them was playing with some kind of puzzle, and it's like, oh god, no, let's not do that. So, but it's that thing of AI. It's not that we're saying, like, AI is like a oh, it's coming up with all these things. Actually, no, AI reflects what is out there. It's working on the data that us as humans are providing. So there is still that stereotype out there, clearly, because the AI is going, what can I find, what can I find? It's this.
And this comes from, like, it can't, like, you see it in the media, but it starts with medicine, because so much of autistic history is just default male doctors looking at boys who are also default men, but just act weird.
That's the thing. I had quirky as a label until I was 33. My mum took me to a child psychologist, and the child psychologist said, "She'll do well academically." I had that in class, I was silent, I had difficulties making friends. I didn't have even a stereotype to recognise until I was 33.
I feel like people who are raised female, it's very much like, oh, you do well academically, you're not like causing a fuss, you're fine.
Yeah.
Because I was very much like, Sam's very quiet, Sam doesn't really go and talk to people. The signs were all there. I remember in my chemistry class, I was waiting outside with my friends, and my teacher looked at me like, Sam, you know my brother's just like you. And I was like, what does that mean? At least 15 years, and I still don't know what she meant by that. Like, was it dyslexia? Was it autism? Was it ADHD? Like, let's take a strip. But yeah, it definitely feels like there's no... We are kind of our... I was maybe talking about this yesterday. We end up being our own representation.
Yes.
Yes. Because we have a lot of, like, young Sheldon, the good doctor, questionable examples of autism in media.
It's not just the lack of representation that, like, it's not just who gets represented as autistic, it's also, like, the autism itself. The spectrum does not get diagnosed properly, so you end up with this idea of a man who is white, who is, like, heterosexual and all of the other stuff, who, on top of that, is, like, quirky and, like, but also, like, nasty.
Yeah.
Really nasty and mean, but he gets away with it because he's, like, academically brilliant.
Yeah.
And, like, as a woman, if you tried being that nasty, you would never get away with that.
See, that's the thing. I have that person inside me.
Yeah.
Either I can get away with it or I can shock people. And I get myself into a lot of trouble for looking completely different to the way that I can act.
Yes.
Because that person is inside me, and I don't see that.
I don't know if this is maybe true for all of us, but I feel like women tend to be, people who are raised socialized female tend to be better at masking those sort of like negative traits, because we are. Well, I was raised by like all woman family. We fight because we learn that that's not socially acceptable, and we get shunned so much quicker, so much faster. I feel than men. I am a man, but for 18 years I was a woman. Experience. And I feel like there is that stark contrast almost. And like, there's always a stereotype of like, autistic people are so smart. I'm not. I'm not. I'm my first class degree in film, which is smart. I couldn't tell you about I can't even say mathematics. I do maths. So I feel like our skills are definitely not like in the science. Well, it's not always in the sciences.
Like, I remember, like, being dyslexic and, like, being really bad at math, like, needing to write out the times tables every day on a grid to remember them, because there was just no other way for me to do it in my head. Bad at math, and looking at all of these representations of these, like, male geniuses who are so good at math, and being like, am I doing autism wrong? I'm diagnosed with this thing, are we sure?
I got an award for maths when I was in like year, I don't know, what's the last one? Year 6 or something like that. Year 7, because that was what it was middle school. And I had a fit about it because I wanted the ones that aren't. But they gave that to someone else because someone else wasn't good at maths, but I was good at maths, and therefore I was able to have it. I'm good at maths now. I was good at like lining stuff up and having all these little processes and kind of operating like a computer. Now it's just like...
Linking it back to talking about in terms of like the unique challenges, and I'm kind of going to switch it a little bit in terms of the topic, in that if that's okay,
Yeah.
I think something that when I was prepping for this panel I thought about, and that actually is quite a challenge for me when I think about being autistic and also being queer. So my pronouns are she, they, / they, them, not quite sure at the moment. And so I'm kind of on that journey. And for me, being on dating apps and doing the whole messaging thing is like, it feels like work. And I know for a lot of people it does. It's that thing of like, well, I've got to do it. I've got to put the work in. But even when it's like, okay, let's take this to WhatsApp or Instagram or whatever to message somewhere else, it's that messaging back and forth. It's that kind of, and we talk about masking, and it's almost like you end up masking through messages, and then it's like, this is so much work. Even though you do want to get to know the person, it's not like you're a horrible person. You're going like, all I want is a girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever. It's not like that. It's just the kind of, I think that's where I find a really difficult area of kind of like, this is challenging for me, because I do want to meet people, I do want to have a partner, but at the same time there's that social norm, I think, nowadays of like, you must message back and forth. You must do like good morning, or you must do like how's your day at work for you. It's like it becomes. I'll be honest. It's like one of my. I have like daily kind of things I try to tick off, and one of them in general, because I'm self-employed. I do this for a job, kind of talks and things. One of them is like answer all emails and notifications, and that's not just work ones, that's social ones. It's like a tick. I'm like, yes, I've cleared all of them. Go away notifications. But I do like these people contacting me.
But it's that thing of like having to be constantly available, which I find as neurodivergent people, it's hard being available all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes I want to put my phone down and go on Minecraft for 4 hours. I don't want to have to talk to people. But it is that very much like you must have some form of presence with people. Especially when it comes to like, I do a lot of my self-promotion through Instagram for my drag work, which I love. I love that I'm not technically it's a part-time job. But it's very much having to like do the masking of like, I need to make sure that I sound this way or that this way. And it just feels like there's almost like social pressure on the back of your brain.
Oh yeah, 100%. I find that with LinkedIn. LinkedIn just feels like a big game. Because I'm just like, hello, I've done this talk today, here's a picture of this, I've been in London. And it's this whole thing of like, I'm a professional, work with me, please. And it's like, I know what I'm doing, I know I'm playing the game, but I think everyone else on LinkedIn is also playing a game. So I just go along with it. And it's that whole thing of, I think, in general, like, I deliver training on autism, and like in general there are lots of things when it comes to being autistic where yes there is overlap with non-autistic people. Like yes there is, non-autistic people will go into work and they'll have a certain work persona, that kind of thing. It's edging on kind of like masking, but it's when you think about autistic masking, it's that like kind of almost like causes you like fatigue, almost like it is draining, and it's that other level. And I think particularly when you get diagnosed, it's that thing of like, oh, yeah, maybe I was masking back then. Oh, yeah.
So the thing that I've found, I think, now, at this point, like I've gone from I didn't know I was autistic, I've been masking, faking it as a woman all this time, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, hooray, I succeeded in my career, oh no, divorce, I wasn't planning that one. Oh, I'm autistic now, I can have this as my true identity, the one true self. And now I'm like 5 years down that line, it's like, there is no one true self. All of my masks have their own personalities, and they come in and they come out, and like, I use pronouns they, them, and I think it's less because of non-binary and more because there's more than one of me in here, including that male who's a stereotypical autistic Sheldon. Who, like, yes, I identify so much with you. You are like my inner child, but also you're so lucky to have people around you who accept you. But like my mask, I think that's one of my challenges, is my mask kind of fighting with each other. And like sometimes I walk away from a situation like, who was that? Or, oh, good job that one stepped in, or whatever. I was a taxi driver for about 10 months, and I found that anyone who got into the back of my cab, it's like, sort of one of those priest boxes when you don't actually see anyone, it's always dark, they're not looking at your face, they'll confess all of their deepest, darkest secrets to you. And I was like, every single time someone new got into the back of my cab, I was this different person who would imitate their accent, who would, like, if they sounded bit more Norfolk, then my accent would slip a little bit more like kind of Norfolky. And if they were very well-to-do and they're very posh and had a nice day out of the theatre, my voice will imitate that as well. I'm just like, this is exhausting. If I didn't know that this was happening, like I can see why I got to the point of burnout. Now it's fun. Now it's like I can go to acting classes and I can be like, I don't even know who's going to be here today. I didn't know who was going to be here today. I'll walk away from this and then you'll see me with my event t-shirt on and I'll probably be something completely different.
I think that's a really interesting point, and that I do improv comedy, and like I think it's interesting how for a lot of autistic people, like there is that performance aspect, like not performance in terms of identities, but some of us do move towards the kind of creative fields, kind of performance, art, and that's not to say that, like I said, not to say that we are performing in our day-to-day life, like we are us, but I think there is that, for me, I find that kind of, I'm able to just be stupid and just be like, I'm going to be a farmer who's has 10 guinea pigs.
I tend to find stuff like improv acting is like practicing for real social interactions. Because alongside drag, I started doing improv acting with a group called Murder 57. Essentially, I get to play people's husbands. Usually I get cheated on. Someone gets murdered. It's a murder mystery dinner situation. I get fed, I get paid like 60 quid. Happy days. And I feel like it's those moments where I'm interacting with members of the public, but I'm not me, I'm someone else. And it's okay if I mess up, it's okay if I say the wrong thing, because I didn't say that. The character did. He's the arsehole, definitely not me. I think it's just, you always create like a safe space for yourself to push out. And especially with drag, I feel like I've definitely got a lot more confident, because also before drag I was not diagnosed with ADHD, I was not diagnosed with autism. Knew I was non-binary, the gender stuff didn't hit just yet. I think like, I was dating a man with a Tory. I was like, I can fix him. So I dumped him. And I feel like it's just creating spaces for yourself to help you grow.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that we all have, because I too have my own like performance space that I go to where we practice. Like it's not necessarily like a drama space, but it is, or an acting space. It's a presentation space. It's where people who do like work presentations go to practice. It's where people who are nearing retirement but are looking for ways to stay active go to socialize, and we go up and we will talk about anything, but the goal is to just get up and talk and like conquer our fear of public speaking, or like beat that stammer in our voice, or in my case, like find a way of processing. Like I didn't expect it to be so useful in processing, like writing speeches about my autism. Being able to talk about it has given me a formal way of expressing the things that frustrate me and also delight me about this way that I am.
I think, and that draws on an interesting point, I think, around public speaking, because it's that, like, I find, like, when I deliver training and when I'm talking to people about, for example, like, autistic people having a spiky profile, so the idea that we might have, a really quite big strength in one area, and then in another area it might be, actually, I really struggle to do, like, it might be someone really struggles to, like, do personal kind of hygiene and or shopping, or things that people might not expect. And I think it's that thing of like we aren't necessarily, like, I think people assume like, they're autistic, they'll hate public speaking. It's like, well, actually no, at first I kind of had to do it because of a job many years ago, but now it's just like, no, I'd actually much rather do public speaking than like be on like a be in like a one-to-one situation, like on a Teams call. Like, I'd much rather do this. I'd also much rather do this than like work in an office job. Like, there is something, and I saw a comedian once at an autistic comedian at a conference, and they were talking about this idea that when you are public speaking, essentially it's a very different kind of communicative landscape than it is like a conversation. Like, I mean, obviously you guys will get to talk later on, but if you think about it, we could just talk at you. And we often we quite like that. And I have to be very careful in my training not to be like, da, 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 da. Oh, it's 4 o'clock. Oh, sorry, I haven't let any of you speak. And so I'm learning, I'm really developing in that area. But yeah.
I've heard that with like autistic comics. Like,
There's a lot of
side effects. I
Yeah.
love being a comic because I just get to stand there and info dump and talk about what I want to talk about. And maybe you'll help me, but you know, that's kind of part of it.
The challenge.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, I also host the Queer Scratch Night. It's just great just to yap on the mic.
Yeah.
I usually have to get someone to nudge me to next exam. That's only 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, here's the next act. Woo. And it's almost like that sense of control. Whereas I feel like in just regular day-to-day, especially one-on-one conversations, having to predict what people are going to say, horrible. I feel like I have my own instruction manual in my brain somewhere, which apparently isn't a thing for people. Apparently rules or like, here's what I'll say at this thing, I've rehearsed what I'm going to say.
I like scripts when I'm going to the doctor though.
Yeah.
Like just to like make sure that I've asked every question, that I've mentioned everything. I've written scripts out when I go to have when I was in high school meeting with my teachers. When I'm preparing for job interviews, I'll write scripts.
Yeah.
I've heard of the idea of like that you can be a talk to thinker or a think to talker, and like some people talk in order to think. So in the words, it's easier for them if the words are just sort of coming out and flowing. It doesn't necessarily make sense. But I'm definitely the think to talker, where it's like I'm not writing down these scripts, but I am having endless scripts with myself and all of my little voices in my head of how things might go. And only when I know that I remember my script will I be able to confidently talk. So, for example, making a phone call. I used to hate phone calls. Don't call me. Now, if I have a script because I've practiced it and I've done it, it's like, I need to change this appointment. No, you're going to do what I need you to do. Then I feel confident. But if it's a random thing out of the blue, hang up.
Yeah, no, don't call me out, boy. Please pre-warn me. I'm not answering it.
Yeah, or leave me a voicemail. I always think if it was important, could leave a voicemail. And I probably missed the exact way, but that's my approach.
Something really important and one I get on my soapbox about is advocacy empowerment. So how do you advocate for yourselves?
Ooh, I'm actually working on this with my therapist. No, I feel like at my actual job, the job that pays the bills, I work in Tesco. I stock shelves, I serve people, and I feel like I am the advocate by default because I am I'm not the only autistic, I know there's a few of us, but I'm the only trans person, I'm the only very, 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 very gay person. There are other gays. I can't mask anymore. I'm tired of it. I just want to exist as I am. I want people to accept me as I am. Obviously there's levels to it, so if I can tell that someone's going to be a bit hesitant towards it, I'll be like, okay, I'll say it, but I won't go aggressively into detail on it. I think it's just trying to find that balance almost. And I feel as a performer as well, I am kind of becoming the role model that younger queers are going to see, which is always quite nice. My stepmother, her granddaughter, has found my Instagram. She's 15, so it's not some random 7-year-old just came across my Instagram. So I've been like, why did you let your granddaughter Instagram? But she's very much is a young bisexual. And it's actually really sweet that she looks up to me because my stepmom was like, oh yeah, she loves the work and she's seen your post, she loves your drag, she loves seeing you, and it's me both on and off stage, and I think it's quite sweet. So I think that's how I advocate for myself. I just exist.
Yeah.
I think for me, because my day job is working in a care home, mostly not with autistic people, but with people who have dementia. So for me, the two things that I've taken from that have really helped me is knowing the law. It sounds really granular, but just knowing that you have the law on your side, or that there is a rule that they must follow, is really helpful. It stops you from feeling like you're being you're being too aggressive or something because you're actually like, no, you have to do this. The law, this thing says that you have to have it. And like, the other thing that I've realised is that I'm very good at advocating for other people, but not myself.
Yeah. If someone else is having an issue at work, I best believe I'm the first person to be like, excuse me, there's something wrong here. But like, if my schedules change and they're like, I'm really sorry, but I need you to push my shift back. I don't know what it is. And it's like, I've also started playing touch rugby, and it's just like little discrepancies. I'm like, I'll happily pull that up for you. But doing it for myself, because I think I always double question if I'm correct in what I'm. And this is why I work with my therapist. Like, I know what is right for me, but I think I question it.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if it's just autism or if it's related to something else in my brain. But yeah, it's having to like stand up for yourself almost, which I think growing up I wasn't like. I was not really a popular kid. I know I definitely look like I was a popular kid, but no, I was very much the dog in the library that was like reading through like all the Narnia books and just was a total nerd. So it's having to learn to stick up for yourself sometimes. I think doing that for other people does help, because it feels like it almost comes in roundabouts.
It's like the autistic shutdown, like just comes in at you, and then you're like sitting there being like, "Am I in trouble?" And you can't like verbalize it. And you just want to ask, but you can't. And it's just like, ooh. It's a really bad feeling.
Yeah, it's definitely when you've got to fight through as well. Like, you've got to, like, I now have my tactics for if I've got to bring something up that's mildly confrontational. Like, okay, I'm not in trouble. It's fine. I'll, like, have, like, a stim toy or something on me. I'm like, this is fine. I've gone through this. Blah, blah, blah. It'll be fine. I think it's, like, that change in, like, the norm, because you kind of have to change it. Because I'm very much, like, I don't know, I'm a bit of like an everyday autism, like, I'll do this at this time, do that at that time. With the ADHD, it's like, I want to change things up. I'm like, stop it. Please, I need to stick to routine. And I feel like that can sometimes cause me to like feel a bit weird.
I feel like I'm much better at advocating for myself in writing than I am.
Yeah.
Any opportunity I have to write something down and like send it in as a letter or an email, I will take that.
Oh yeah, that classic.
Yeah.
Like the classic of like, something will happen in a meeting or something. Like back when I was employed and not self-employed, something would happen. I'd be like, oh, I'm really angry about that. Or that's a mistake. And then after, I'll be the annoying person that's like, just gonna email, just follow me. Like, people are sitting there like, I wish they'd just say that in the meeting. But it's like, it feels one step removed. It feels that little bit more safer. Yeah. And also, it's like they then have time to process their response. You have time to process, and then also you get to be like. I always think about emails as like tennis ball, like, you know, the ball's in their court. It's like, get that out of my again, go back to the notifications. It's like, wait, dealt with it.
See, the thing for me is I don't think that I have had a whole lot of success at all with any written communication or being patient with any other person. Or I think it links a lot with what you're saying about self-advocacy versus advocating for your community. So I do a lot of work with the North Autism Partnership. In all sorts of different guises and things. And in that space, I can advocate for other people and reflect upon my experiences and other people's experiences and kind of summarise, well, what could be the best approach to do this? What are the things that we need? And listening to other people helps me to advocate for a community. But advocating for myself, the law was not on my side. The law was not on my side. The lawyer says, oh, you're autistic, but you've got a degree and you're a teacher. Oh, my sister has MS. That's a real disability. So you're not going to represent me then? All right, thanks. Okay. How does that make you look? It makes me look like an autistic person having a meltdown because I'm being bullied by employers. That's how it makes me look. Complain. No, this is our only person. Okay. I could get on my soapbox with such as things. It's happened to me. I'm trying to not because I'll just depress everybody here. But
I think never underestimate the opportunity to just leave if you can.
Yeah.
There's a point where I've also had this thing happen to me where I have gone into work meetings and been like, can I have this and this? And they're like, nope. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting another job then.
Yeah. All I wanted to do was to be treated like a professional as a teacher. I want to be treated like a professional to do my job, not as a puppet, please. Thanks. Ooh, no, can't do that. All right, bye.
I think something as well, going back to kind of the advocacy and empowerment. I think I'm always quite aware, like in my job, I talk about my own lived experiences, but also like in the presentations and things that I deliver from, there's like experiences from other autistic people. And I think something, it's quite apparent in a room like this. This is quite a white room. There is not necessarily, black, Asian, minority, ethnic, and I think it's important to also raise too that there hasn't been enough discussions around like BAME communities and autism, and it's only very, very recently that we've actually properly started having those conversations, which I find really shocking because we know that autistic people have always existed and therefore have always and have also always existed across continents. Autism doesn't. It's not, as we were saying earlier, it's not kind of set to this small white boy. And I think that's hugely important when, on a panel like this, we're talking about intersectionality. I think for so long, like particularly black men and women, it's that thing of, they're involved with the criminal justice system, they're seen as adultified young women, and it's like, no, hold on, these people are really struggling, and we're not kind of, it's like I say, it's only recently that we've actually started going, oh wait, hold on, that naughty boy that we thought, naughty boy in school that was judged for all these different reasons, actually maybe they're autistic, and actually maybe we can support them in a different way. Because so many autistic people, whether who have committed crimes or have been victims of crimes, are involved in that health and justice system and the social justice system. So I think it's, an area I want to bring up here because it's just...
I think because I don't have the cultural competence to actually speak for a different community.
Likewise,
But I really want to be able to engage with those communities.
Yeah.
It's like, so there's something called ABA, Applied Behavioural Analysis or whatever. And it's like you get all the white people on social media saying, hey, ABA is bad, it's evil, it's bad, you must never do it. And then it's like, in America, if my black kid doesn't take ABA, they're going to get arrested by a cop. And it's like, it flips the context of, well, why would you choose to do this thing for your kid? It's like, it's completely different.
Like the context
experiences, the racism that happens. It's like, well, okay, so my black kid really needs to be taught how to mask much more strongly than maybe a white kid who'll get a free pass at being Sheldon Cooper. So,
because I feel like the support gets less and less, especially for the minorities, because it's kind of, again, it's been until recently that it's been spoken about. Because I feel like a lot of research on black and any sort of other than the white male just either doesn't exist or has not been very minimal, or if it's Trump, it's non-existent. That's my soapbox. I'm get angry about that.
I think the mention of Trump is a good ending.
We need to let these lovely people speak.
We can open it to the wider audience. If there is any questions you'd like to ask the panel, feel free.
Hi, with your mention to Sheldon and The Good Doctor in terms of autistic representation in media, are you familiar with the concept of autistic coded characters?
Yes.
I think Sheldon is meant to be kind of, he's autistic coded, but I'm pretty sure the creator thinks that they're not.
I think the creator declined to give him a label so that they could do what they want with him. Because if they gave him the autism label, then you're going to have to be respectful of autistic people and engage with the autistic community. If you just say, no, my mother had me tested.
Yeah. Ugh. But with the good, you mentioned The Good Doctor. The Good Doctor is an interesting case study because, he is diagnosed. He's just not diagnosed with autism. He's diagnosed with savant syndrome, which is not the same thing.
No.
But it shows how it shows a lack of understanding of the differences between these two conditions in pop culture. And I think there is a benefit to having autistic coded characters. I'm not going to knock it. I just think that it's better when a community like us will like, or me, I will not speak for them, but for me, I really love Pride and Prejudice because I think Mr. Darcy is a really good bit of autistic rep. I think that I love Bob's Burgers because I think that like many of the characters have not only good autistic rep but good ADHD rep. It's a great tool, but it's when like the A-listic community, the non-autistic, start being like, ooh, Sheldon Cooper, that it gets annoying.
Yeah.
It's like Sia's film.
Sia,
Music or
Bill-
when it's
something.
such complicated.
But then it turned out she's autistic.
Yes.
But she hadn't talked to the autistic community about her representation of this one autistic person she once knew, but then trying to defend it by saying she's autistic too. I think autistic coded characters are really important so long as they've been written by autistic people with with discussions with other autistic people and ideally acted by autistic people because there's enough of us around that can step into these roles.
I was going to say, we can step on resumes if you want.
Every single time I step on a plane, I somehow manage to find any film that's got like an autistic person in, and I don't know how I managed to do it, but whatever's in the blurb is like, this is autistic. Ezra. If anyone wants to go and watch a film, Ezra. It's like, so it's a kid who's autistic with his parents separated, and the parents have got different viewpoints on how this kid should be supported, and it's all heartwarming and nice.
I do like the concept of autistic coded characters, especially when they're handled well. Like I know there's a character in Sex Education who is, I think she's written as autistic, I can't remember her name though. And I think Dairy Girls, Master's Not Autism, I think one of the characters definitely has strong ADHD vibes. I also can't remember if she's a lesbian. Me too. But I think it's nice in a way because now that we're evolving in media, it's now, I feel like it's getting easier to spot reflections of you in media. Because the reason why I don't watch The Good Doctor is it just feels like I'm watching the worst day of my life. It feels like I'm just watching me having a meltdown. I'm like, oh, this is too close to home.
I've seen someone on YouTube call The Good Doctor autistic blackface.
Yeah,
Ooh,
that is interesting. Yeah, I think the other another good example of where autistic coded can be useful is so one of my favourite books, and the book that I will hold up as the gold standard for good autistic rep, is called Compound Fractures by I think his name is Joseph White. It's a trans boy. It's a boy who's living in rural Appalachia. He doesn't have the money to afford a diagnosis, but he is coded as autistic. And the book is, it's a horror novel. Don't read it if you have like a weak stomach. It can get very gory, but it's very, the reason I hold it up as being so emblematic of like the autistic experience is that it's about the process of finding out that you're autistic. And I think with explicit rep, like Sia's music, when you do get explicit rep of an autistic character, the autistic character is not going on a journey. It's the care workers that go on a journey. The autistic character has no hero's journey. They have no character arc. It is very difficult to find that immediate explicit rep.
I think sometimes as well, there's really good examples where it's like retrospective diagnosis, like Geek Girl, the book, and Chris Bale, the author, and people kept writing into her saying it's a character autistic, and the author Holly Smale was like, no, it's just me. And then she went and got an autism diagnosis. Like, oh, I'm diagnosed autistic woman, and this is about an autistic girl. It's me.
How important do you think getting a diagnosis is? I'm aware that there's a lot of women of my generation that may never get a diagnosis, and I also work with elderly people, and I'm aware that there's many that have gone through life without a diagnosis. And I think one of the barriers has been this negative association with the word autistic. that you can often recognise a lot of traits and think, they're talking about me, they're talking about my life, but do I want to go and be labelled in that way? Probably not, because of our generational experience of what that might mean.
Yeah, I think that's why my mother won't get diagnosed. She's 60. She is of that generation that is very much like, this doesn't exist, blah, blah, blah. And telling her, I'm like, no, I have autism. You probably do.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't exist or that it's
Yeah,
far from
no,
it,
I know what you
but
mean.
it's about
I
wanting to be kind of, it feels like for me to be box or label,
Yeah.
and therefore that is going to have that association with a specific thing. That means, oh, you must be this.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I don't fit in there either.
No.
So where do I?
Yeah.
I think
And but far from feeling a lack of identity, for me personally, I feel there's an individuality that can be retained with that, and that's just my personal opinion and why I probably don't want to go down that
I think that because autism is a medical diagnosis, there is there's a sort of grey spectrum between it being a medical diagnosis and it being an identity,
yeah.
and you are allowed to you are allowed to exist between those two points. I know I have met in my job working with elderly people who mostly have dementia. I have met one woman with an autism diagnosis. I have met a lot more who I don't know. I mean, you don't have one, but your room is filled with Egyptian iconography and cats, and this seems like, and that's the easiest way to start a conversation with you, and like again, like also with that generation, like autism for a very long time was used as like just an interchangeable word for something like a psychosis or something worse.
So would you say the media and social media has actually made it easier for you to?
Yeah.
I think definitely nowadays people are more likely to self-diagnose. I was self-diagnosed as autistic for ages, and I personally don't see an issue with self-diagnosis. If you know that is what you are, if you have friends around you that are diagnosed autistic, if there are a lot of signals pointing towards you being autistic, and you are like, I am autistic, but I don't wish to make this a big thing in my life. It's more, I think, a tool for you to know how to navigate yourself and like navigate the world around you. Because when I originally self-diagnosed before my diagnosis, it was helpful. Like when you get the diagnosis, nothing changes. And most they'll be like, well, we can give you some support sessions. It's not like ADHD where they're like, we'll put you on medication, or we'll try this, we'll try that. I feel like it's more of a tool to help you navigate the world around you, which I think is quite helpful. And I think I say older generations just because I think my mother would definitely benefit from. Sorry, I will yap about her just because I love her, but my gosh. Yeah, I think it just would help them understand. I think it would help them process things that have happened in their lives. So like, autism and trauma is something that I see goes hand in hand for a lot of people that I know. And I feel like just knowing that maybe something happened or like you reacted a certain way because you're autistic would just help like alleviate some feeling, I feel.
So my partner is American, and their autism diagnosis was to get therapy, and eventually their therapist said, yeah, you're autistic. Our autism diagnosis is like, look at this story about frogs and frogs and like some sort of fact check. And as Aurelia was saying, it's medical. It's a medical diagnosis. For some people, the medical diagnosis is a gateway to the correct treatment and support. And for other people, it was just kind of like a validation that we belong in this club. And really, those of us who are in that club don't need you to get diagnosis to be part of the club. You're autistic, Because you can talk with us and you can identify with our ways of life, and we're all different anyway. So
I mean, we've got I know for a fact that there are these two people on this panel who can like point to members of their family who haven't been diagnosed. I can point to multiple members of my dad's family, going multiple generations back, being like, well, Granddad once went to the pharmacist to buy a pair of eardrums because someone said that he was making so much noise he was going to break her eardrums. Which, or Great Aunt Bernie was a train spotter, and like, yeah, it's like we don't. It can be enough just to be you and to show up and to say like.
And I will add as well, sorry, I didn't jump on top.
Go ahead.
The LGBT community worked really hard to stop being gay being a medical diagnosis. It's an identity. No one is going to give you a medical card and say, "Oh yes, you are definitely gay." So when we talk about like autistic culture, you don't need the card.
Yeah,
It's a golden ticket to nowhere for a lot of people.
Any more questions quickly?
Yeah. I do bake charities. I do bake charities for Morning House.
Do you do volunteering?
Yeah.
Nice.
I do autistic pet.
Nice.
nice. I think autism is
do bake charity Morning House
Nice.
with people who have cancer.
Oh, brilliant.
that's really good. Yeah, I think volunteering is a way to build community, like not even just as an autism thing. It's really great. It's really useful.
Definitely. And I think being able to speak with other people and support other people, it's not only, obviously it's a great thing to do, but also you are then part of a community, and it's like any volunteering, any work that we do, there's always a danger that people assume with autistic people that they love just spending time on their own, and yeah, we do to an extent, but we need that human connection. We need to be out there, not only for our well-being, but also because we need to be included in society and to be accepted, and World Autism Acceptance Day, week, whatever you want to call it. So yeah. Thank you for
Autism
sharing.
Celebration Day.
Yes! You're a spicy people.
Even if we're just all in our own separate corners celebrating by ourselves, and doing it in the same room, it's great.
Yeah, looking like sitting next to each other going, yes! Okay, good. Yes.
Well, I just want to say thank you very much.
Thank you.